The ballroom at Ashwood Plaza glittered with the quiet luxury of a high society affair. Every inch of the room had been meticulously arranged, from the grandiose Christmas tree in the corner, adorned with gold ribbons and white lights, to the delicate crystal glasses set on each table. The soft hum of conversation filled the air, punctuated by the tinkling of champagne glasses and the soft rustle of satin gowns. It was an evening meant for celebration, for indulgence in wealth and tradition, and for the city's elite to rub elbows and show off the opulence of their lives. Janelle Winters stood backstage, taking a deep breath. She had been hired to perform for this prestigious event, an annual gala that brought together the who's who of the city's power players. It was an opportunity she'd worked hard to secure, an opportunity to showcase her talent in front of some of the most influential people in the music industry and beyond. Her heart raced with excitement as she prepared for her set. She'd chosen to sing classic Christmas carols, but not in the way most would expect. She wasn't here to simply sing Silent Night and Jingle Bells in their traditional forms. No, Janelle's voice was something that could transform the mundane into something extraordinary. She was known for infusing gospel, jazz, and soul into the old standards, bringing a depth to the music that resonated with the very essence of the season. Her goal was to not just entertain, but to move people, emotionally and spiritually. When her name was called, she stepped onto the stage with the confidence of someone who had earned her place. The lights were bright, almost blinding, but she didn't let them distract her. Her eyes scanned the room, taking in the sea of well-dressed faces, the politicians, the businessmen, the socialites, all sitting in their comfortable bubbles, surrounded by luxury and privilege. Her gaze settled briefly on the large, ornate chairs near the front of the room where Martha Greaves, the event's organizer, sat. Martha, a woman in her 50s with a penchant for velvet dresses and pearls, was known for her meticulous attention to detail, as well as her rigid views on tradition. Janelle's performance began with the first few notes of "O Holy Night." Her voice, rich and warm, filled the space, soaring to a crescendo as she poured everything into the song. The gentle hum of the piano accompaniment added an air of reverence, and the subtle complexities of the melody unfolded in Janelle's hands. She had practiced for hours to make sure every note was perfect, blending a classical arrangement with the stirring soul of her upbringing. But as the song swelled, something shifted in the room. She could feel it, the shift in energy, the subtle disapproval rippling through the crowd. Some of the older guests exchanged wary glances, their lips tight. Janelle's heart fluttered, but she pressed on. She wasn't going to back down. Not now. Her voice wove the melody into a beautiful gospel refrain, the kind that stirred emotions and evoked memories of church pews and hymns sung with passion. It was at this moment, as she reached the peak of the song, that the interruption came. A sharp cough broke the rhythm. Then the unmistakable sound of Martha Greaves's heels clicking across the polished floor. The guests quieted, their heads turning toward the stage, expecting nothing less than a smooth performance. But Martha, her posture rigid with an air of authority, stepped to the front of the stage. "Thank you, Miss Winters," she said, her tone polite but firm, as though Janelle were a child who had stepped out of line. "While your talent is undeniable," she continued, "we kindly ask that you stick to the original arrangements. This is, after all, a themed event." A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. For a split second, Janelle's mind went blank. Her heart pounded in her chest. Was this really happening? Martha's gaze was cold, assessing, like someone who believed they had the right to dictate the boundaries of art. "We appreciate your creativity, but we expected a more traditional performance. This isn't the right venue for deviations." The words hung in the air, a bitter sting that felt like a slap to the face. The crowd, too, seemed to feel it. Some looked away uncomfortably, others nodded in agreement, their expressions a mixture of approval and indifference. But one thing was certain. The tone in the room had shifted. Janelle stood frozen, microphone in hand, her throat tight. She glanced down at the crowd, trying to decipher the meaning behind the awkward silence that had settled over the room. Were they ashamed of her? Or did they simply find her performance inappropriate for the occasion? A bead of sweat formed at her temple, but she fought to maintain her composure. She could feel the weight of their expectations pressing down on her. This was not just about the music. It was about fitting into their narrow box of what was acceptable, what was right for their exclusive world. She knew the unspoken rules. Keep things light, keep them safe, and above all, keep it in line with their ideals of tradition. Anything outside of that, especially from someone who wasn't one of them, was unwelcome. But Janelle wasn't going to let them silence her. The words that were swirling inside her, anger, confusion, and a deep burning sense of injustice began to coalesce. She had worked too hard, come too far to let this moment define her. With a slow, deliberate motion, she lifted the microphone again, her voice steady despite the tension that now gripped her chest. "Excuse me, Ms. Greaves," Janelle began, her tone measured but filled with an unshakable calm. "I understand that this event has a theme, but the theme of Christmas is not just about decoration or a set list of songs. It's about love, acceptance, and joy, and those values can be expressed in many different ways." Martha's face flushed with indignation, but before she could respond, Janelle added, "You asked me to perform here tonight because you recognized something in my voice. You saw my talent, but now that I'm offering something different, you want to shut it down. I won't be part of that." A tense silence followed Janelle's defiant words. Her voice, steady as it had been, now seemed to echo in the cavernous ballroom, ricocheting off walls adorned with holiday garlands and wreaths. Martha Greaves stood rooted in place, her face a mask of shock and barely concealed anger. The crowd remained frozen, unsure whether to clap in support or sit in awkward stillness. Janelle's heart pounded in her chest, the adrenaline of the moment pushing her forward even as a small voice inside her wondered if she had gone too far. Martha recovered quickly, her professional composure slipping into a brittle smile. "Miss Winters," she said, her tone as sharp as the edge of an icicle, "perhaps this isn't the right time to discuss themes. We appreciate your contribution. Let's take a moment to thank Janelle for her performance." A smattering of applause followed. It was polite but half-hearted, and it stung more than outright silence. Janelle's fingers trembled as she set the microphone back in its stand, her jaw tightening as she refused to let tears form. She offered a curt nod to the audience, spun on her heel, and walked off the stage. Backstage, her manager Elise was pacing nervously, phone in hand. "What the hell was that?" she hissed the moment Janelle stepped into the dimly lit green room. "What was what?" Janelle shot back, her voice cracking with anger. "You just called out Martha Greaves in front of the most powerful people in the city. These are the people who write the checks, Janelle. Do you know what this could do to your career?" Elise threw up her hands, her sleek blonde ponytail swishing with the motion. "I mean, yeah, you had a point, but—" Janelle cut her off. "But what? I'm supposed to sit there and let them tell me that I don't belong, that my way of expressing myself isn't good enough for their party?" "It's not about that," Elise countered, though her voice wavered. "It's about picking your battles. You're a rising star, Janelle. You have to be strategic." "Strategic?" Janelle's laugh was bitter. "You mean silent, play the role, be the good little performer who sticks to the script. Is that it?" Elise's silence was answer enough. Janelle grabbed her coat, slinging it over her shoulders. "I'm done here," she said, her voice low. "Tell Martha she can keep her check. I'm not singing another note tonight." The cold December air bit at Janelle's skin as she stepped outside, her breath visible in the frosty night. The streets were quiet save for the occasional hum of a passing car or the distant sound of laughter from holiday revelers. She pulled her coat tighter around herself, the warmth doing little to chase away the chill in her soul. The cab ride home was a blur of city lights and silence. Janelle stared out the window, her reflection a ghostly overlay on the scenery beyond. The night's events replayed in her mind on a cruel loop. Martha's condescension, the audience's indifference, Elise's admonishment. For years, she had fought to get here. Late nights performing in smoky bars, balancing part-time jobs just to make rent, enduring rejection after rejection. She'd thought this night, this performance, would be a milestone. Instead, it felt like a reminder that no matter how far she climbed, someone would always try to push her back down. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, interrupting her thoughts. She pulled it out to see a flood of notifications, messages, missed calls, and social media alerts. Against her better judgment, she opened Twitter. The hashtags were already trending. Janelle Winters, Chanka Christmas Gala Drama, Chaka Oh Holy Fight. There were videos of her performance, clips of Martha's interruption, and countless opinions flying in every direction. Some posts were supportive. "Janelle Winters was incredible tonight. Shame on that gala for stifling her creativity. Finally, someone said it. Christmas isn't about rigid traditions. It's about heart. Janelle nailed it. Others were less kind. Janelle Winters ruined the gala with her ego. Know your audience. Not the time or place for a political statement. Just sing the songs and move on. The cab pulled up to her apartment building, and Janelle paid the driver without a word. Her fingers lingered on her phone as she climbed the stairs to her small, one-bedroom apartment. Once inside, she kicked off her heels and collapsed onto the couch, staring at the ceiling as the weight of the night pressed down on her. For hours, Janelle sat in the quiet of her living room, the Christmas lights on her tiny tree casting soft glows across the walls. She replayed the moment on stage again and again in her mind, wondering if she'd made a mistake. But as the hours passed, another thought began to take root, a flicker of defiance, small but growing. She thought of the little black girls who might have watched her performance, who might have seen her standing her ground against people who thought they could dictate what she was allowed to be. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from an unknown number. "I was at the gala tonight. I want to talk. Let me know if you're interested. Marcus Hall, Platinum Records." Janelle stared at the screen, her pulse quickening. Marcus Hall was a name she knew well, an executive with a reputation for discovering and promoting diverse talent. Could this be a new opportunity? A chance to rewrite the narrative? Her fingers hovered over the keyboard as a smile tugged at the corners of her lips. "Let's talk," she typed back, hitting send. For the first time that night, hope began to outshine the disappointment. The next morning, Janelle woke to sunlight streaming through the blinds and a persistent buzzing from her phone. She blinked against the light, her mind foggy with sleep, until the events of the previous night came rushing back. Grabbing her phone, she glanced at the screen. Texts, missed calls, and social media mentions were piling up faster than she could process. But what caught her attention was a follow-up message from Marcus Hall. "Good morning, Janelle. Let's meet today to discuss a potential collaboration. My team believes in your voice and your vision. Are you free at 2 p.m.? Here's the address to my office downtown." Her stomach flipped. Collaboration? Marcus Hall's name carried weight in the music industry, and a meeting with him could change everything. But she couldn't shake the lingering doubts. Was this real, or just another industry player looking to capitalize on the drama from last night? Still, curiosity outweighed caution. By noon, Janelle was dressed in her best blazer and heading downtown. Her nerves prickled as she stepped into the sleek glass tower that housed Platinum Records. The receptionist, a young man with a practiced smile, directed her to the 15th floor. The elevator ride felt endless, her thoughts racing. This could be the break she had worked so hard for, or another dead end. When the doors opened, she was greeted by Marcus Hall himself. He was a tall man in his 40s, his polished demeanor softened by a warm smile. His tailored suit and designer watch spoke of his success, but his handshake was firm, and his eyes were kind. "Janelle Winters," he said, ushering her into a spacious office with floor-to-ceiling windows. "It's an honor to finally meet you. Please have a seat." Marcus wasted no time getting to the point. "I saw what happened last night, and let me just say, you handled it with grace and conviction. The music industry needs voices like yours, both literally and figuratively." Janelle shifted in her chair, unsure how to respond. "I've followed your career for a while," he continued. "You're not just a performer, you're an artist with a unique perspective, and that's what we want to showcase. Platinum Records is launching a new campaign highlighting underrepresented artists, people who break the mold, who challenge expectations. After last night, it's clear you fit that vision." He leaned forward, his expression earnest. "I want to sign you, Janelle. Not just for a single or an album, but for a partnership. You'd have creative control over your music, your image, everything." Janelle's breath caught. Creative control? Partnerships like this were rare, especially for artists still climbing the ladder. "Why me?" she asked, her voice cautious. Marcus smiled knowingly. "Because you have something to say, and the courage to say it. Last night you didn't just sing, you stood up for what you believe in. That's the kind of authenticity that resonates with people." For a moment, Janelle allowed herself to dream. She thought of the songs she'd written but never performed, the ideas she'd shelved because they didn't fit the narrow expectations of her past gigs. With Platinum Records backing her, she could finally bring those dreams to life. But doubt lingered. "What's the catch?" she asked, folding her arms. Marcus chuckled. I appreciate your skepticism. There's no catch, just a lot of hard work. And maybe one small request. Janelle raised an eyebrow. Which is? We want to start with a live performance. A chance to reintroduce you to the world on your terms. I'm thinking a holiday concert. Something intimate but impactful. We'll handle the venue and promotions. You just bring your voice. By the time Janelle left the meeting, her mind was spinning. The offer was incredible, almost too good to be true. But the idea of another holiday performance made her stomach twist. The memory of Martha Greaves's condescension and the lukewarm applause from the gala still stung. Back at her apartment, she called Elise to share the news. They want to sign you? That's huge, Elise exclaimed, her voice filled with genuine excitement. But they want me to do another Christmas show, Janelle replied. Elise paused. And that's a bad thing because what if it happens again? Janelle admitted. What if I'm not good enough? What if I blow it? Janelle, Elise said firmly, you've been working for this your whole life. You have the talent, and now you have a platform. Don't let one bad night hold you back. Besides, she added with a smirk Janelle could hear through the phone, imagine proving Martha Greaves wrong in front of the whole city. Janelle couldn't help but laugh. You've got a point. With a deep breath, she made her decision. She called Marcus back and agreed to the performance. Over the next 2 weeks, Janelle threw herself into rehearsals. The concert would feature a mix of traditional carols and original songs, each reimagined in her signature style. Platinum Records spared no expense, hiring a live band, arranging for custom lighting, and booking a venue that could hold hundreds of guests but still felt intimate. Word of the concert spread quickly. News outlets picked up the story, framing it as a redemption arc after the gala fiasco. Social media buzzed with anticipation, with fans and critics alike speculating about what Janelle would bring to the stage. Despite the mounting pressure, Janelle felt a renewed sense of purpose. This wasn't just about proving herself to the industry or her critics. It was about creating something meaningful, something that could inspire others to embrace their individuality. On the night of the concert, Janelle stood backstage, her heart pounding as she listened to the murmur of the crowd. The house was packed, the energy palpable. Taking a deep breath, she stepped into the spotlight. The audience erupted into applause as she approached the microphone. Janelle smiled, her nerves melting away as she began to sing. Her voice, full of soul and conviction, filled the room, carrying with it the essence of her journey. This time, there were no interruptions. The venue was unlike anything Janelle had ever performed in before. Platinum Records had spared no detail in its design, transforming an old cathedral into a space that exuded warmth and reverence, perfectly fitting for the season. The tall stained glass windows glowed with soft amber light, casting colorful reflections onto the polished wooden floors. Candles flickered along the aisles, their golden light creating an intimate ambiance. Backstage, Janelle paced in her dressing room, her nerves twisting into a knot. The faint hum of the audience reached her ears, a packed house filled with fans, critics, and industry insiders. Among them, she knew, were people who had been at the gala, people who had likely come to see if she could redeem herself. Her phone buzzed with a text from Elise. You're going to kill it tonight. Just be you. Janelle smiled faintly, pocketing the phone. She turned to the mirror, adjusting the sequined emerald gown she'd chosen for the evening. It shimmered under the soft light, a bold statement she'd picked intentionally. Tonight, she wouldn't blend in. She wouldn't be invisible. When the stage manager gave her the signal, Janelle took one last deep breath and stepped into the wings. As the house lights dimmed, the crowd quieted, the anticipation crackling in the air like static electricity. A single spotlight illuminated the stage, and Janelle stepped into its glow, her emerald dress catching the light like a jewel. She started with an a cappella rendition of Silent Night. Her voice was rich and unhurried, each note infused with emotion. The room seemed to hold its breath, the audience captivated by the purity of her tone. As the band joined in, the arrangement transformed into a soulful jazz piece, weaving intricate melodies that brought the old carol to life in a way no one had heard before. The applause that followed was thunderous, reverberating through the hall. Janelle's chest swelled with relief and pride. Midway through the concert, Janelle paused to address the audience. The band played softly behind her, a delicate piano melody that filled the silence between her words. When I was invited to perform at the Christmas gala a few weeks ago, she began, her voice steady but vulnerable. I had no idea it would become such a defining moment in my career. That night I was told to change my music, to fit into someone else's idea of what this season should sound like. Murmurs rippled through the crowd, but Janelle pressed on. That experience taught me something important. The true meaning of Christmas isn't about conforming to tradition. It's about celebrating the things that make us unique, the things that connect us even in our differences. Tonight I want to share my music with you the way it was meant to be heard. The audience erupted into applause, many standing in support. Among them, Janelle spotted familiar faces from the gala, including Martha Greaves. To her surprise, even Martha clapped, her expression unreadable but less cold than before. Janelle closed the show with an original composition, A Light That Shines. The song was a heartfelt blend of gospel and jazz, its lyrics weaving a story of resilience and hope. It spoke of overcoming doubt, embracing one's identity, and finding strength in the face of adversity. The band swelled behind her, the brass section adding triumphant flourishes as Janelle's voice soared, filling every corner of the cathedral. By the final note, the crowd was on its feet, the applause deafening. Janelle stood there for a moment, taking it all in. For the first time in weeks, she felt at peace, not because she'd won their approval, but because she'd stayed true to herself. Backstage, the energy was electric. The band members high-fived one another, and Elise burst in with a grin so wide it looked like her face might split. "You did it!" she exclaimed, pulling Janelle into a tight hug. As the night wound down, Janelle met with Marcus Hall, who was glowing with pride. "You exceeded every expectation tonight," he said. "This is just the beginning, Janelle. The world is going to know your name." Just as she was leaving, a familiar figure approached her, Martha Greaves. Janelle stiffened, unsure of what to expect. "I wanted to say something," Martha began, her tone unusually soft. "I wasn't sure you'd recover after the gala, but tonight you proved me wrong. You have a gift, Miss Winters. Thank you for reminding me that tradition can evolve." The words caught Janelle off guard, but she nodded graciously. "Thank you," she said simply, her voice steady. The next morning, headlines splashed across social media and music blogs. Janelle Winters brings the house down in stunning holiday concert. From scandal to stardom, how Janelle Winters redefined Christmas music. A new voice for the holidays. The rise of Janelle Winters. Janelle sipped her coffee, scrolling through the articles with a mixture of disbelief and gratitude. It wasn't just about the performance, it was about the statement she had made, and the doors it had opened. She knew the journey ahead wouldn't be easy. There would be more challenges, more critics, and more moments of doubt. But for the first time in her life, Janelle felt ready to face them. She grabbed her notebook and pen, a new song already forming in her mind. Janelle's performance became the talk of the season, and her career began to rise at a pace she'd only dreamed of. Within weeks of the concert, Platinum Records announced her debut album, featuring both reimagined Christmas classics and original tracks that showcased her powerful voice and distinct style. Her social media following surged, with fans from all walks of life celebrating her resilience and artistry. But with the newfound success came challenges she hadn't anticipated. As Janelle's visibility grew, so did the scrutiny. Interviews, photo shoots, and promotional appearances filled her days, leaving little time for herself. Every word she said was dissected online, and not all the attention was positive. Critics resurfaced the drama from the gala, spinning it into new narratives. Some accused her of seeking fame through controversy. Others questioned her authenticity, suggesting her bold performance at the concert had been a calculated move to capitalize on the backlash. "You can't please everyone," Elise reminded her during a late-night strategy meeting. "The important thing is that you stay true to your vision. The people who matter see that. Trust me." Janelle nodded, but the words didn't fully ease the tension in her chest. Amid the whirlwind of her rising fame, Janelle decided to take a short break and return to her hometown for Christmas. It had been years since she'd spent the holiday with her family, and she longed for the grounding presence of her mother and younger brother, Aaron. The small, snow-covered town was a far cry from the glitzy city venues she had grown used to. Her childhood home was modest but warm, its walls adorned with decades of family photos and homemade decorations. The scent of cinnamon and pine greeted her as she stepped inside. her mother pulling her into a tight embrace. "It's so good to have you home," her mother said, her voice thick with emotion. "We're so proud of you, baby. Aaron hasn't stopped bragging about his big sister to everyone in town." Janelle laughed, the weight on her shoulders momentarily lifting. She spent the next few days reconnecting with her roots, helping her mother cook holiday meals, playing card games with Aaron, and attending the small church where she'd first discovered her love for music. On Christmas Eve, as snow fell softly outside, there was a knock at the door. Janelle's mother answered, revealing an unexpected guest, Martha Greaves. Janelle's heart skipped a beat. What was she doing here? "Miss Winters," Martha began, stepping inside and shaking the snow off her coat. "I hope I'm not intruding. I heard you were in town and I wanted to speak with you." Janelle exchanged a look with her mother, who excused herself to the kitchen, sensing the tension. "What brings you here, Ms. Greaves?" Janelle asked, keeping her tone polite but guarded. Martha hesitated, her demeanor far removed from the authoritative presence she'd exuded at the gala. "I owe you an apology," she said finally. "After the concert, I had a lot of time to reflect. I realized that what I said to you that night wasn't just wrong. It was disrespectful. I let my own biases and expectations cloud my judgment." Janelle blinked, caught off guard by the sincerity in Martha's voice. "I've spent my life organizing events that cater to a specific crowd," Martha continued. "I thought I was preserving tradition, but I see now that I was excluding people, excluding you. I'm sorry for that, and I want to make amends." Janelle crossed her arms, studying the woman before her. The apology felt genuine, but forgiveness wasn't something she could give easily. "I appreciate your words, Ms. Greaves," she said carefully, "but I hope you understand that it's not just about me. It's about everyone who's ever been made to feel like they don't belong because they're different." Martha nodded, her expression somber. "I do, and I'd like to work with you to change that. If you're willing, I'd like to sponsor a series of community concerts, events that celebrate diversity in music and bring people together. And I can't think of a better artist to help lead the charge." The proposal was unexpected, and Janelle spent the rest of the evening weighing her options. On one hand, working with Martha could be an opportunity to create real change and reach new audiences. On the other, it meant aligning herself with someone who had once tried to silence her. She called Elise to discuss it. "Do you think she's serious about wanting to change?" Janelle asked. "Maybe," Elise replied. "But even if she isn't, this could be your chance to take control of the narrative. If you're the face of this initiative, you can shape it into something meaningful." Janelle sighed, her mind spinning. "I'll think about it." On Christmas morning, as her family gathered around the tree, Janelle made her decision. She would accept Martha's proposal, but on her terms. That evening, she called Martha. "I'm in," she said, "but I want full creative control over the concerts, and I want a say in every decision. If we're doing this, we're doing it my way." "Of course," Martha agreed without hesitation. With that, a new chapter in Janelle's career began. The community concert series, titled Voices of the Season, became a platform for underrepresented artists to showcase their talents, blending genres and cultures in a celebration of diversity. The first concert, held in Janelle's hometown, was a resounding success. Martha watched from the sidelines, visibly moved as Janelle performed a duet with a local gospel choir, the crowd singing along in unity. As the final notes of the concert echoed into the crisp night air, Janelle stood on the stage, looking out at the sea of faces. She thought about the journey that had brought her here, the struggles, the triumphs, and the people who had tried to dim her light. She realized now that every challenge had been a stepping stone, pushing her closer to her purpose. Her voice wasn't just a gift, it was a tool for change, a beacon for others to follow. When the crowd erupted into applause, Janelle smiled, a deep sense of fulfillment washing over her. This was only the beginning. The success of Voices of the Season ignited a fire that spread beyond Janelle's hometown. The concert series gained national attention, drawing praise for its mission to celebrate diversity in music and community. Major sponsors came on board, transforming the series into a multi-city tour. Each stop showcased local talent, blending genres from gospel to jazz, classical to hip-hop, in a way that transcended barriers. Janelle found herself busier than ever. Balancing the tour, her album production, and interviews was exhausting, but it was also deeply rewarding. At each venue, she met aspiring artists who shared stories of how her journey had inspired them to pursue their own dreams. However, the spotlight also brought new pressures. The industry, while supportive on the surface, still harbored those who doubted her ability to sustain her success. Some critics dismissed the concert series as a fleeting trend, questioning whether Janelle's fame would last beyond its novelty. One evening, during a meeting with her team in Los Angeles, Janelle found herself at odds with her new manager, a fast-talking industry veteran named Greg. "We need to talk about the next phase," Greg began, flipping through a binder of proposals. "Your album is doing great, but we need to start thinking about mainstream appeal. That means collaborations, commercial singles, maybe even a little image rebranding." Janelle raised an eyebrow. "Rebranding? What exactly does that mean?" Greg hesitated, then gestured vaguely. "Just a fresh look, something that fits more with pop radio. And the music, well, we could ease off the jazz and gospel for now. Focus on a sound that charts faster." Elise, sitting across the table, leaned forward, her expression sharp. "Are you suggesting Janelle change her entire style? Because that's not happening." Greg sighed, his patience clearly thinning. "Look, I'm not saying abandon your roots, but you have to evolve. This is the game, Janelle. If you want to stay relevant, you have to play it." Janelle's stomach churned. She had fought too hard to establish herself as an authentic artist, only to be told now to dilute her voice for the sake of numbers. "I hear you," she said carefully, "but I won't compromise who I am. My music isn't just a product, it's my story. If that's not enough for the industry, then so be it." Greg leaned back in his chair, looking unconvinced. Elise, however, shot her a proud smile. Amid the professional turmoil, Janelle faced challenges at home. Her brother, Aaron, had always been her biggest supporter, but he began struggling with feelings of being overshadowed by her success. "I'm proud of you, Janelle," he admitted one night after a family dinner. "But it's hard sometimes, you know. Everyone in town only talks about you. I feel like I'm just your little brother." His words hit Janelle hard. She'd been so caught up in her whirlwind of fame that she hadn't realized how it was affecting those closest to her. "You're more than that, Aaron," she said, her voice earnest. "You've always been my rock, and I know you have dreams of your own. What can I do to help?" Aaron hesitated, then finally confessed his passion for art. "I want to open my own gallery someday," he said, his eyes lighting up. "But it feels impossible." Janelle placed a hand on his shoulder. "Nothing's impossible. Let's figure it out together." Determined to take control of her narrative, Janelle made a bold decision. She announced her next project, an independent album funded through a platform that allowed fans to contribute directly. The album, titled Roots and Wings, would be a deeply personal exploration of her life and heritage, blending traditional African-American spirituals with modern jazz and soul. The move was risky. Industry executives questioned her judgment, warning her that going independent could alienate major labels. But Janelle believed in the power of her fans, and they didn't let her down. Within weeks, the campaign exceeded its funding goal. Messages poured in from supporters around the world, each donation accompanied by a note of encouragement. When Roots and Wings was released, it shattered expectations. Critics hailed it as a masterpiece, praising its authenticity and emotional depth. Tracks like Freedom Song and Mother's Melody climbed the charts, proving that music born from the heart could resonate far and wide. The album's success cemented Janelle's reputation as an artist who defied conventions and thrived on her own terms. It also brought opportunities she hadn't anticipated, including an invitation to perform at the White House Christmas celebration, a full-circle moment that reminded her of how far she'd come. Back home, Janelle helped Aaron launch his gallery, using part of her earnings to support his dream. The gallery became a community hub, showcasing local talent and fostering creativity. Watching Aaron find his voice reminded Janelle of the importance of staying connected to her roots. In a quiet moment during the gallery's opening night, Aaron hugged her tightly. "You didn't just make it, Janelle," he said. "You brought us with you." As the years passed, Janelle continued to grow, both as an artist and a person. Her music evolved, but she never strayed from her core values. She became a mentor to young musicians, encouraging them to embrace their individuality and stand firm in their beliefs. Every holiday season, she returned to her hometown to perform at Aaron's gallery, a tradition that reminded her of where her journey had begun. And each year she sang "O Holy Night" with the same soulful passion that had once caused an uproar. this time to standing ovations. Janelle's journey was never about fame. It was about finding her voice, embracing her identity, and using her platform to uplift others. She had faced rejection, criticism, and the temptation to conform, but through it all, she remained true to herself. As she looked out at the crowd during one such performance years later, she reflected on the path she'd walked. The lights of the venue shimmered like stars, and the applause thundered like a heartbeat. This was her story, and it was only just beginning. Janelle Winters' career reached heights she never imagined, but her greatest accomplishment wasn't the awards or the accolades. It was the legacy she began to build. With her platform secure and her artistry respected, she turned her focus toward uplifting others and addressing the systemic challenges she had faced. The first step was launching the Winters Foundation for Artistic Excellence, a nonprofit dedicated to supporting underrepresented artists in music, art, and performance. The foundation offered scholarships, mentorship programs, and grants to emerging talents who lacked the resources to pursue their dreams. This foundation isn't just about music, Janelle explained during the launch gala. It's about creating spaces where people feel seen and heard, no matter where they come from or what they look like. Janelle became a sought-after mentor, not just for her musical expertise, but for her ability to navigate an industry that often felt unwelcoming to people who didn't conform to its narrow standards. She took young artists under her wing, teaching them not only how to hone their craft, but also how to stand firm in their identities. One such artist was Lila Bennett, a shy but talented singer-songwriter who had grown up in a small, conservative town. Lila's voice was a delicate blend of folk and soul, but she struggled with self-doubt and the fear of rejection. Janelle met Lila during a workshop the foundation hosted in Atlanta. After hearing her sing, Janelle pulled her aside. "Do you know how special your voice is?" Janelle asked, her tone warm but firm. Lila hesitated, her eyes downcast. "Sometimes," she admitted. "Then let me tell you something," Janelle said, her voice resolute. "The world needs to hear it, and the only person who can stop that from happening is you." Under Janelle's guidance, Lila gained the confidence to record her first EP, which quickly garnered critical acclaim. Seeing Lila succeed reminded Janelle of her own early struggles and reinforced her commitment to nurturing the next generation of artists. As her influence grew, Janelle began pushing for systemic changes within the music industry. She joined the boards of major record labels and streaming platforms, advocating for fair representation and equity in hiring, promotion, and playlist curation. At one board meeting, Janelle faced resistance from a prominent executive who argued that the industry was already inclusive enough. "Inclusion isn't about checking boxes," Janelle said, her voice steady but sharp. "It's about creating a culture where everyone has a chance to succeed without having to erase parts of themselves. If you think we're already there, then you're not paying attention." Her words sparked a heated debate, but it was a conversation that led to actionable change. Over time, more diverse voices began to emerge in the industry, and Janelle's leadership was credited as a driving force behind the shift. Years after the infamous Christmas Gala, Janelle received an unexpected invitation. Martha Greaves was hosting another holiday event at Ashwood Plaza and wanted Janelle to headline it. The invitation felt like a full-circle moment. While Janelle had moved past the pain of that night, she couldn't deny the significance of returning to the venue where her journey had taken a pivotal turn. On the night of the event, the ballroom was as grand as ever, but this time, the atmosphere was different. Guests of all backgrounds filled the room, and the program featured performances from artists Janelle had mentored through her foundation. When Janelle took the stage, the applause was immediate and thunderous. She stood at the microphone, scanning the crowd, and smiled. "I've sung in a lot of places since I was last here," she began, her voice steady. "But this room taught me one of the most important lessons of my life, that music has the power to unite us, even when we feel divided." She launched into "Oh Holy Night," her signature rendition, weaving gospel and jazz into the melody. This time there were no interruptions, only a standing ovation that seemed to shake the very walls of the ballroom. That performance led to an idea that had long been simmering in Janelle's mind, a televised holiday special. With the help of Platinum Records and the Winters Foundation, she created A Season of Voices, a celebration of diverse holiday traditions from around the world. The special featured artists from various backgrounds, each bringing their own culture's music to the stage. From traditional African drumming to Latin carols, classical quartets to modern R&B, the show became a symbol of unity and creativity. The program aired to millions of viewers, receiving critical acclaim and further solidifying Janelle's status as a trailblazer in the industry. It became an annual event, one that families across the country looked forward to each year. One quiet Christmas Eve, years into her career, Janelle found herself alone in her home, sipping tea by the fireplace. The house was filled with mementos of her journey, gold records, framed concert posters, and photos of her family and foundation events. As she looked out at the snow-covered street, she thought back to the young woman she'd been on that stage at Ashwood Plaza so many years ago. She'd felt small and powerless then, unsure of her place in the world. But now she knew. Her voice had become more than a tool for music. It was a force for change, a source of connection, and a beacon for others to follow. In the quiet glow of the holiday lights, Janelle smiled. Her story wasn't over. There were still songs to sing, battles to fight, and lives to touch. But for now, she allowed herself a moment to simply be. As the years unfolded, Janelle's influence expanded beyond music. She became a global ambassador for cultural exchange programs, using her platform to connect artists from around the world. Her foundation partnered with international organizations, funding workshops and collaborations that celebrated diversity in the arts. Through these efforts, Janelle organized an ambitious project, the World Harmony Festival. This 3-day event featured performances from artists across continents, blending traditional and contemporary music styles to create a tapestry of global unity. Held in New Orleans, a city as vibrant and diverse as Janelle's vision, the festival attracted audiences and participants from all over the world. While Janelle thrived professionally, her personal life often took a back seat. The grueling pace of her schedule left little time for relationships or self-care. Despite her public image as a composed and confident leader, moments of loneliness and exhaustion crept in during quiet nights in hotel rooms or long flights between cities. Her closest confidant remained her brother, Aaron, who had grown into a successful gallery owner and community leader. On a rare visit home, Aaron voiced concerns about her well-being. "You've built an incredible life, Janelle," he said, pouring her a glass of wine as they sat on his gallery's rooftop. "But when was the last time you did something just for you? No concerts, no causes, just you?" Janelle hesitated, her gaze fixed on the city lights below. "I don't know," she admitted. "It's hard to stop when there's so much work to be done." Aaron smiled gently. "I get that, but you can't pour from an empty cup. Take a break, sis. You've earned it." Aaron's words lingered, and Janelle began to consider slowing down, if only a little. During the planning for the next World Harmony Festival, she met someone who would change her perspective. Daniel Vega, a Puerto Rican percussionist and composer, was one of the featured artists in the upcoming festival. His energy was infectious, his laughter filling every room he entered. But it was his deep passion for music and culture that caught Janelle's attention. They bonded over late-night jam sessions and shared stories of their artistic journeys. For the first time in years, Janelle felt a spark of connection beyond her work. "You're always carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders," Daniel said one evening as they sat by the Mississippi River. "Maybe it's time to let someone share the load." Janelle smiled, feeling a warmth she hadn't experienced in a long time. "I'm not used to letting people in," she admitted. "Good thing I'm persistent," Daniel replied with a wink. Their relationship blossomed slowly, built on mutual respect and a shared love for music. Daniel encouraged Janelle to find moments of joy amid her busy schedule, while she inspired him to use his art as a platform for change. Balancing their careers was challenging, but they supported each other fiercely. Daniel became a quiet yet steady presence in Janelle's life, reminding her to celebrate her successes and find beauty in the small moments. Janelle's tireless efforts in music and cultural advocacy earned her the Global Arts Impact Award, one of the highest honors in the industry. The ceremony, held in Paris, was a star-studded event that celebrated artists who had made significant contributions to global culture. As Janelle took the stage to accept the award, her heart swelled with gratitude. She thought of the countless people who had supported her journey, her family, Elise, Marcus, the artists she'd mentored, and now Daniel. In her acceptance speech, she said, "This award isn't just mine. It belongs to every artist who dared to defy expectations, to every person who believed in a vision of a world united through art. Music is universal. It transcends language, borders, and time. And if my journey proves anything, it's that authenticity and courage can create ripples that turn into waves. The standing ovation that followed was a testament to the impact she had made. Despite her international success, Janelle never forgot her roots. Every year she returned to her hometown for a special Christmas concert at Aaron's Gallery. It became a cherished tradition, one that brought the community together in celebration of love, resilience, and unity. At one such concert, as she performed "O Holy Night" surrounded by friends, family, and neighbors, Janelle realized how far she had come, not just as an artist, but as a person. Janelle and Daniel eventually married in an intimate ceremony, blending traditions from both their families. The wedding, held in New Orleans, was a joyful celebration filled with music, laughter, and love. Together, they continued to champion the causes they cared about, using their art to inspire and uplift. Their home became a haven for creativity, hosting workshops, jam sessions, and gatherings that bridged cultures and generations. Years later, Janelle stood on the stage of the largest arena she'd ever performed in, closing out the World Harmony Festival's 10th anniversary. As the crowd of thousands sang along to her music, she felt a deep sense of fulfillment. Her journey had been far from easy, marked by challenges, heartbreak, and moments of doubt. But through it all, she had stayed true to her voice, and in doing so, she had helped others find theirs. As the final note of her song rang out, Janelle smiled, her heart full. This wasn't the end of her story. It was simply another chapter in a life dedicated to the power of music and the beauty of human connection. Years passed, and Janelle's life transformed in ways she hadn't fully anticipated. She continued to perform and advocate for the causes she was passionate about, but her focus began to shift towards something more personal: her family. Janelle and Daniel welcomed their first child, a daughter named Sophia, 2 years after their wedding. Sophia was a lively child with an infectious curiosity for music, often seen banging on a tiny drum or singing in her own playful way. Parenthood changed Janelle in profound ways. She felt the weight of legacy more deeply than ever before. She wasn't just paving the way for other artists, she was now shaping the future for her own daughter. Her busy schedule made balancing motherhood and her career a challenge, but Daniel and Janelle approached it as a team. When Janelle toured, Daniel would bring Sophia along, turning green rooms into playrooms and late-night rehearsals into lullabies. Their shared love of music became the fabric of their family life. One evening, while Janelle was sitting with Sophia at their piano, the little girl placed her tiny hands on the keys and mimicked her mother's movements. Janelle's heart swelled as she realized Sophia wasn't just imitating her. She was finding her own rhythm, her own way of expressing herself. It reminded Janelle of her own childhood, of the early days when she discovered her passion for music in a small church choir. Daniel watched from the doorway, his eyes soft. "Looks like we've got another artist in the family," he said with a smile. Janelle laughed, brushing Sophia's curls from her face. "Maybe. But whatever she chooses, I want her to know she can always be herself." As Sophia grew, Janelle's career evolved alongside the ever-changing music industry. Streaming platforms dominated the landscape, and social media became an even more powerful tool for connecting with fans. Younger artists, influenced by Janelle's groundbreaking work, often sought her advice or asked to collaborate, creating a new wave of music that blended cultures, genres, and voices in innovative ways. Though the industry was more inclusive than it had been when Janelle started, challenges remained. There were still battles to be fought for fair representation, especially for women and artists of color. Janelle became a vocal advocate for transparency in streaming payouts and artist compensation, working to ensure that the next generation of musicians didn't face the same struggles she had. Her foundation, now international, expanded its reach to include not only music education but also mental health resources for artists, recognizing the toll that fame and the pressure to succeed could take on creatives. Janelle also took on more behind-the-scenes roles, producing albums for up-and-coming artists and curating music festivals that highlighted underrepresented voices. One of the artists she produced, Lila Bennett, now a well-known folk soul singer in her own right, often spoke about how Janelle's guidance had helped her find her own path. "I owe so much of my success to Janelle," Lila said during an interview. She showed me how to stay grounded while still reaching for the stars. As Sophia grew into a teenager, her love for music deepened, but her path wasn't as clear-cut as her mother's. While Sophia had inherited her parents' talent, she was drawn to visual arts, painting and sculpture rather than singing. Janelle encouraged her daughter to follow her own creative path, reminding her that art, in any form, was a way to express her soul. But Sophia struggled with living in her mother's shadow. No matter where she went, people would mention Janelle's name, often comparing them. It became a source of frustration and, at times, resentment. One afternoon, after a tense conversation about her future, Sophia blurted out, "I don't want to be you, Mom. I love music, but I'm not you. I'm me." Janelle was taken aback but quickly softened. She knelt down to meet Sophia's gaze. "I don't want you to be me either, Sophia. I want you to be exactly who you are. Your art, whether it's music, painting, or something else, belongs to you. You don't have to prove anything to anyone, least of all me." Tears welled up in Sophia's eyes, but she nodded. It was a moment of understanding between them, a realization that while legacy was important, it didn't mean following the same path. As the years passed, Janelle transitioned into a new role, one she hadn't fully anticipated but embraced wholeheartedly. She became a teacher, not in a traditional sense, but as a mentor to young artists at the Winters Academy for the Arts, a school she founded that focused on nurturing talent from underprivileged communities. The academy offered courses in music, dance, and visual arts, with a focus on cultural diversity and self-expression. Janelle personally led master classes, teaching not only vocal techniques and performance skills, but also how to navigate the complexities of the music industry. She shared her own stories of rejection, of standing her ground, and of finding her voice in a world that often tried to silence it. One of her students, a shy young girl named Maya, reminded Janelle of herself at a younger age. Maya had a powerful voice but lacked the confidence to perform in front of others. Over time, Janelle worked with her, building her self-esteem and helping her find the courage to step onto the stage. At the Academy's annual showcase, Maya performed a breathtaking solo, earning a standing ovation. Afterward, she ran backstage into Janelle's arms. "You were right," Maya whispered. "I found my voice." Janelle smiled, feeling the familiar warmth of fulfillment. "It was always there," she said softly. "You just needed to believe in it." In her later years, Janelle often reflected on the arc of her life. She had achieved more than she ever imagined, but the most rewarding part of her journey wasn't the fame or the awards. It was the lives she had touched along the way. From her daughter, who was carving her own artistic path, to the countless students she mentored, Janelle realized that her legacy wasn't just about her music. It was about the doors she had opened for others, the communities she had uplifted, and the seeds of creativity she had planted in the hearts of the next generation. One evening, as she and Daniel sat on their porch, watching the sunset, he turned to her with a smile. "Do you ever think about what's next?" Janelle laughed softly, her eyes crinkling at the corners. "I think there will always be something next. But for now, I'm just grateful for what's now, for everything we've built." Daniel squeezed her hand. "You've changed the world, Janelle." Janelle shook her head, her smile humble. "No, Daniel. I just gave it a voice." At her final public concert, held in New Orleans, Janelle performed for an audience of all ages, many of whom had followed her career from the very beginning. As she sang her closing number, an emotional rendition of "A Light That Shines," one of her original songs, the audience joined in, their voices filling the arena in unison. For Janelle, this was the perfect finale, not a farewell, but a reminder that music had always been about connection, about unity. As she bowed to thunderous applause, she felt a profound sense of peace. Her journey had come full circle, but the ripples of her influence would continue for generations to come. Janelle Winters' life was a testament to the power of staying true to one's voice. From the spark of courage she showed at a Christmas gala to becoming a global icon and mentor, her journey inspired countless people to embrace their authenticity and create meaningful chai. Her story became more than music. It became a movement. Through her foundation, academy, and personal connections, Janelle ensured that art remained a bridge between people, transcending barriers of culture, race. In her later years, as she watched her daughter Sophia thrive as an artist in her own right, and her academy nurture a new generation of talent, Janelle felt the quiet fulfillment of a life well lived. The world had changed, and she had played her part in shaping it. On her final public appearance, she left her audience with a simple yet profound message. Music is more than just sound. It's a way to tell our stories, to heal, to unite. And in a world that often tries to divide us, let your voice be the one that brings light. As the applause thundered one last time, Janelle bowed deeply, her heart full of gratitude. She had given the world her voice, and the world had sung back. Thank you for following Janelle Winters' incredible journey, a story of resilience, creativity, and the power of staying true to oneself. If this story inspired you, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more stories like this. Let us know in the comments what part of Janelle's story resonated with you the most. Want to explore more? Check out our next video, insert link to related video, where we dive into another tale of overcoming challenges and embracing authenticity. Together, we can celebrate the voices that shape our world. Stay tuned, stay inspired, and keep sharing your light. Turn on notifications so you never miss a new story.